You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. Marcus, I want you to tell me who are the biggest badasses the world has ever known in terms of performance. Ready, go.
Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Wow, dude, they were awesome at slapstick humor. They invented it.
Human
nice job. Huh?
All right, human
performance. Come on. Jack LaLanne.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Right? What was the Weeder guy?
When's the last time?
What was Weeder?
Oh, Joe Weeder? Yeah, to redefine the workout.
Redefine it all. Wow, before it was so reserved into these old kind of Gold's Gym mentalities, very unsophisticated.
Yeah.
Right? Only the Olympians were able to generate crazy performance, right? And they had all this new fandangled science stuff going on, but it's so much more than that. And what's crazy is you had
how technology and the society and everything shifted in the same time frame as the gym kind of sequence shifted. So you took it back from the 50s, the calisthenics, to World War II. Then you had the aerobics, where it was just for whatever reason, and then the bodybuilders, aerobics, and then bodybuilding.
Jogging started in the 70s, right?
And they took it off into that whole movement of getting into the gym, getting back in shape, and then getting huge, and then you saw the fitness part of that. And then as there was a shift in technology, you saw a shift in the workouts and the way people got back in shape because they looked deeper into it, and you don't have to do 6 hours in the gym. So then
functional fitness takes off. You kept it in a very secure, kind of siloed capacity, but now performance is everything brought together. How you're performing physically, how you're performing mentally, how you're performing emotionally, spiritually, how you're performing sexually, how you're performing. I mean, human performance finally, I believe now, as the civilian, the regular person out there, not the Navy SEAL, not the elite athlete, but the regular person is finally recognizing the power of looking at human performance as it relates to their life. You don't have to be those things to be obsessive.
Bodybuilder, that's a life. That's why they look like that. That's why their muscles have to be that. And people think when SEALs got to be huge. That's not it, man.
No.
Our program is designed to get you to your peak performance, height, weight, and nutritional value. That's how you're right. It's all come slamming together. If it's not just big muscles make you in shape, because you stack them muscles on, you don't have any cardio to push them,
you're done. You're done, especially in the jungle.
Before you even get started.
Well, that's what I really loved. Is I remember when the human performance program came online, at least with the East Coast teams first, in that it was so much more of a comprehensive program where they're actually analyzing your particular movement patterns, what is best for your body type, and what it responds to, incorporating nutrition into that. And that was such a leap forward in addressing human performance. I thought it was I thought that program was fantastic when it came online because it took everything to an entire new level. 2004, I think.
Because remember the gym rats, you'd walk in and they started having the CrossFit rows. They're like,
what are those?
What is that? And somebody's like, hey, let's go do some CrossFit. Hey, yeah, go ahead. Do some aerobics too, or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
You'll be doing yoga now.
Whatever. But
now you got team guys doing yoga, guys meditating, guys doing functional, guys doing rehabilitative therapy.
Look at the guys coming back online. That's how you know it's not just.
It's such a more professional approach than what it was. I mean, I don't have much experience to what was being done in the teams fitness-wise before that, but I do know that there was certainly a strong element in the culture of, well, I'm just going to do shit that's really hard until I break myself.
Bing, 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 bing,
lift
bing.
as much
That's
weight,
it.
and then if you got a problem, elevate it and put some ice on it and put some rice, right? Motrin.
Yeah, and suck it up.
800 milligrams. Suck
Put
it up.
powder below the waist, Motrin above.
Right.
No, I'm with you, brother, and that's what I'm saying is that now human performance is not isolated to in regular people that are out there in whatever capacity, whatever industry, whatever they're doing in their lives. They can recognize that there are avenues, there are serious, legitimate, scientific-based programs for them to maximize their threshold.
It's pretty spectacular in how it's done now. You're right. I mean, it's literally a part to where it could be it's not just you walk in, get a trainer, they put you on a bench, and you're throwing up some dumbbells. Those days are
so gone.
So exactly.
Dinosaur days.
You have to have 6-7 hours in the gym or an hour and a half, 3 hours. That's not how it is at all. You can literally go in one day and it's 5-7 minute workout, and then you culminate all that together. It creates a life that is dynamic and it's in its approach and allows you. What it allows you to do is go do other things. Actually,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, it keeps you active in so many different other avenues.
Right.
And so people aren't constrained in one particular avenue of performance, right? Whether it is physical. And most of the time when you think about gyms, you think about nutrition programs, you're thinking about, all right, what are my interests out? Do I like surfing, paddleboarding, jiu-jitsu, whatever it might be? And that's why I think, bringing on a guy like Aubrey and what he's doing with Onnit is so critical nowadays to hear the variations of what performance is as it relates to your ability to learn the never quit mindset. Because what happens so often, Wizard, that we see out there is people get started, right? And for some reason they stop because of some type of resistance or some type of something that gets in their way. Most likely themselves, whether it's they don't have enough time, they don't have enough this, or they're not truly committed and understand how this program is going to benefit them in the long term.
Or even more simply, they don't see actual progress and advancement in what they're doing because they're not taking a very scientific or, I guess, in what we're talking about with human performance, in it being more of a multidisciplinary integration into a fitness program, right? Which, like you just said, it doesn't have to be only for elite athletes. It can be pulled in bits and pieces for pretty much any level of fitness you want to get into. Therefore, what a person who gets involved in that is going to see progress, which is the most powerful motivation probably in and of itself.
Right.
Well, hell, you go down to Exos to get your year started off right, to get you in the mindset, to get that performance going. Why?
But I have a performance coach. When we got out, we're all busted up. That's back in 2008 was the first time I went down there to Exos, and it's a hospital, a physical therapy hospital, but it's got all kinds of stuff in it. And then on one of the compounds is the program, is where Exos is, and it's where people can go in for what we're talking about. And they've been putting me together, like I said, since 2008. So to kind of give you an idea how it works is I go down there every year, regardless, no questions asked. If I've had a surgery, I'll go there a couple more times. When I get there, the first day when I walk in, it doesn't matter. I still have to check in. So I go in and sit down with first my coach who's going to be training me. So I have my own personal coach who watches me work out, tells me what to do, and then sometimes if I'm hurt or after a surgery, there'll be two of them on me watching something that he can't see. And I literally go in and do a strength test, but not with heavy weights. And then I do a flexibility test, and then I go in and get all my measurements done from a fat count and all that. And I go in to sit down with a dietitian, and then we talk about it. Like, what do you want to do? How do you want to be for the year? I really program myself for the year. So he's like, you want to put on weight and be heavy, or you want to be thin and move fast? All right, and I kind of, depending on how I felt, I did one, I think it was a couple of years back, where I was like, I want to be Team Guy Big one more time. So the lifts and everything in my diet get incorporated in that. But I realized that I can't carry that weight anymore. It was a bad idea. Every day on that thing, I'd be like, my knees, man.
My knees.
So after I sit down with the dietitian, then he's writing all that stuff down, and he programs all my stuff into the computer, and then I show up the next day, and then there's individual folders for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I go down through all those, and it has all the calories, everything, and I need throughout the day. And then that gets turned in upstairs to the kitchen, so all I do is have to go upstairs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then after that first day, then I'll go back out into the gym, and then they'll do this function test where they put the bar on me, and I got to bend over and see if I can touch my toes, and then lift my leg up. And, it's totally not looking tough on the bench lifting a whole bunch of steel, which I don't do anymore at all. The great part about it is the combine, the kids coming out of the schools that are wanting to go into the NFL, they're getting ready to go into the combine. Well, Exodus is a training platform for the combine kids to get them ready. And then I started going down there. In the beginning, it was me and a Delta guy, and he was doing his physical therapy there. So now we start a program called the Eagle Fund, and all the SF operators go there to get physical therapy to go back online, not to get back out.
Wow.
I think last time I was there was 60 or 70 guys.
Wow. Wow. So they pretty much have your daily regimen all dialed in. And that's for how long?
Longest I've been there was 6 months.
What?
After all them surgeries. Yeah, I was beat up bad in the beginning of it.
Yeah.
But on average.
A month. I'll be there at the minimum of a month. Three kids online. Because now kids, that's hard. But I will always go there. And it's because of that, right? This physical, this performance, the way that the technology and how all these programs have evolved, that when I leave out of there, I'm good to go for the year.
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, man, within that space, I think people are listening and they're super fired up for this show, right? They want to understand more about human performance. If it's your first time listening to our show, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. You picked a doozy to choose. If you're coming over from Aubrey's farm, we welcome you with open arms. You're going to love this show. We're super fired up to have Aubrey on, Aubrey Marcus. If you are coming back, you're a repeat offender, man, thank God, man. We love you. We just, your performance and your support of this show has made us, God, we're closing. We're over 4 million downloads. We have just hundreds of listener stories pouring into our website, which is tnqpodcast.com. If you want to go see more of those stories, visit there or download our shows. Are all on the website. We got some cool kit and gear. And then, you can also find us on iTunes. Go to the iTunes podcast app, subscribe and have us on call, on the ready, any day in the middle of any workout you're involved in. If you're in the middle of meditating, you're doing your yoga, you're running, you're kicking your own butt, man, you're getting your massage, flip the switch and we will be in your head to help your performance and growth as it relates to the never quit mindset. Wizard, before we bring Aubrey on, brother, man, give a little background.
Absolutely. Aubrey Marcus is from Santa Monica, California, but now in Austin, where Onnit is located. And he is the CEO, the founder of Onnit, which they describe themselves as a lifestyle brand based on holistic health philosophy that he calls total human optimization. They've got, now they've only been around for 5 years. They've grown exponentially. In 5 years, they're valued at, according to this, $28 million. They are an Inc. 500 company and industry leader. They've got over 250 products ranging from peak performance supplements, such as, which are probably what they're best known for, at least that's kind of the market segment that they first started in, Alpha Brain, Shroom Tech, New Mood. These are all supplement combinations meant to provide your body with things to optimize it, give it that fuel. They also have fitness equipment and apparel.
Training.
Right, and beyond that, so that they'll have training. He does talks. They have conferences. For example, even with entrepreneurs, he was recently at a 6,000 entrepreneur roundtable discussion called the Synergy Global Forum.
Heck, that's where I met him, was at the Onnit Influencers Weekend this past fall, where I got, they had some, Lance Armstrong was there, JP Sears from Facebook, Awaken as fuck. He's awesome. They had some other amazing guys there. Really just, it's a dynamic organization that's just really doing some incredible things.
Yeah, and when you listen to him, you get that sense. He is, I don't know if I want to say a fanatic, but he's certainly passionate about.
He's a philosopher.
The whole spectrum surrounding, total human
podcast is dope.
And it even extends into some, let's say, less than conventional means of human optimization. But, we'll see if he decides to get into it. I know he's got into it with Joe Rogan before. He has a book coming out, Own the Day, Own Your Life. And he also has a podcast.
Brother, Dude, I am super fired up to bring Aubrey on. What do you say, big guy?
Let's do it.
Let's get him on here. Now, listen, Marcus, when I went to Austin, Texas, right, to be a part of the Onnit Influencers Weekend, you just don't know how you're going to wrap your mind around. One, first off, because I'm this crusty old frogman, right? Going to be surrounded by all these people that are in the height of their development, and they're pushing themselves in their yoga. They're doing, like, they're really hardcore, and I'm just trying to get out of bed in the morning, right?
God, are we already in that spot?
Dude, I feel like it, brother. I feel like it. So I show up, and right out of the gate, Aubrey gets up and gives this speech, man, that I swear to God, and I'm a motivational speaker, right? And
was it an Independence Day good speech?
Dude. Oh, bro, and all these people are like, because it's deep, and you know, and I'm just like, woo, you! And they're like, does anybody have questions? I'm like, right here, I got one right off the bat. I'm like, and dude, I got so fired up. I'm like, fuck, this is awesome. But guess what? Because I obviously, what am I going to do when I meet somebody that gets me that fired up? Hey, dude, would you come on the podcast, right? And I look at him and I go, Aubrey, man, we would love to have you come on the podcast. And what did you say?
Of course.
Of course. And I was like, yeah. But then he goes, I hit him, hey, man, why don't you come out to the ranch and come on and go live with us, sitting with us, bro? And he's here. He's right there now.
That's the only way. The only way.
It must have been good. You made it through these gates. You're sitting in here.
Right? Dude?
Yeah.
And the fact that, bro, you're sitting here, that you took time out of your crazy-ass schedule, and I know how crazy it is, to come out and sit down with us and be with us, man. It just, it's a real privilege and a real honor, Aubrey, to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you, brother. And you give yourself too little credit, because you showed up at that event and on it, and you brought so much positive energy. It was just like a bomb went off. I mean, you just raised that love and happiness and enjoyment meter to the. I mean, there was gears falling off the meter after you would leave a room. So,
well, thank you, brother. Yeah. You know, and you talk about this all the time on your show with people. It really is about that self-improvement. It's about the total human optimization, and that's an essential component for us. And for me, it is about that positivity energy. It is about that relationship that you can establish with a person in a short period of time, to know that, man, that love is there, it's present, it's real. And that's how you connect with people. And that's the precipice for our show. That's really why we're doing this, man, is to create this network, this team, if you will, of people that believe in the things that you believe in, that believe in this essence that we're all capable of the never quit mindset.
yeah, I think a lot of times people can think of motivation like words, like the words are going to carry the motivation. But you could literally have been speaking another language and people's enjoyment of you would only have been slightly diminished. Like it's an energetic expression of when you have these things internally aligned right, and then you can express that. And we read that off each other all the time. You know, so a lot of times people get lost in the craft of it. What do I need to know? What do I need? It's really about what do you need to be? You know, what do you need to align in yourself to be the type of person that when you drop yourself into a situation or put yourself out onto the air or put yourself in a team situation, what is the person you need to be so that you can be motivational, just purely?
And that's the great challenge I think that we face and we hear and we think about all the time is who am I? And how do I fit in, right? And as our listeners are going through, man, and that's really the beauty of I think with our show is we create a space for people to really begin to ponder, hey, I'm in this hole, I'm getting pummeled, I'm getting knocked out, I'm in the dirt, right, Marcus? Who am I gonna be? How can I be my best self in the fight?
Well, you look at it the same way a diamond's made, right? The harder you get hit and it comes in at light, sometimes the pressure comes in so damn hard, man. All you can do is just lay down there in the fetal position and take it, and the pressure just keeps coming and coming and coming, and when it's all over, whatever, you know, what comes out of that is completely different than when in it.
The compression creates the bounce, right? Like you think about those super bouncy balls, the higher you drop it from, the higher it bounces back up. But why? Because that rubber, as soon as it hits that pavement, it's going to compress tighter and harder than it ever could. And so the tighter the compression you feel, the bigger the bounce you're going to feel. And knowing that and remembering that whenever you're in the hole, whenever you're in your darkest fucking place, your dark night of the soul, and you're feeling that compression crushing every bone in your body, know that the bounce is going to be equivalent to that compression if you can get aligned and get yourself ready to lift.
I dig it.
Every other component of the body works that way. You work your muscle, you stretch it, you put pressure on it, it grows, it gets stronger. The heart, the lungs, you breathe heavier, every part of it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, someone has guided it. You've let somebody put it into your head that your mind doesn't work that way. It absolutely does. The pressure that's put on there is the same way. When it comes out, the lessons, and you push forward through it. It's not a label can. It's funny, man. It's just a couple of words, but it can go on the same thing and mean two different things. People think that that bad time, that's automatically you're supposed to suffer from that. When in reality you're not. You're supposed to say, yeah, I was able to take that. Yeah. And I came through it, right? Yeah. And it's not with me anymore. I'm past it. But you drag that mental image with you when you shouldn't. That's actually the part that makes you stronger.
Every time. Well, what's crazy right now, Wizard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we literally have just jumped right in the deep end and have gone screaming past what I think is most of our audience is pretty much their favorite part of the show, which is
absolutely all those people that just tune in for the Mad Minute and shut it off are getting really annoyed right now.
They are, because here's the greatest thing about Aubrey is, the guy lives in his brain is perpetually warmed up, and so we don't have to be in that space. But brother, I'm sorry, we gotta
Mad Minute.
We gotta do it.
I don't know what it is, but I'm ready.
And that's the way, even better for you. All right, Marcus, fire away, bud.
Have you ever passed gas in public and blamed it on somebody else?
Absolutely. On the airplanes? Every time on the airplanes. Around? Damn. That's horrible. That's putrid.
Yeah, I'll chime in with somebody else. This old man shit comes blowing through the airplane, dude.
Dude, this guy next to me, he just lost his mind, actually, when I let one rip. No. I'm just doing work. I'm working on my book. I'm being very professional.
You can't pass gas while you're doing shit, right?
Yeah. And he's 2 seats next to me, middle seat's open, and he just starts losing his shit. He starts slamming down, going, oh! I'm just laser focused. He lost it. He looked at me 1 second. I just didn't even budge, and he just kept looking around.
Jesus, whose ass am I eating right now? And what was it?
Oh, that's so hot. That is epic.
So my brother and I, our biggest thing is he's gotten the last 2 times with me walking down a hallway. There'll be somebody in front of us, and he'll scream, "Hey, you!"
dirty,
jump behind the Coke machine or the doorway, and you kind of stand there busted or trapped in the elevator. Man, those are good ones, man.
Dude, I can't imagine with you two a lifetime of that, man. Bro.
He like I'm talking. This goes on all the time, even in the 40s.
Yeah.
But he busted me here recently, a good one. I mean, with an older lady who recognized me, by the way, after he launched it out. I was like, oh, this never gets old, does it, brother?
And he's like, yeah. All right, Wizard, fire away, bud.
All right, you've got to pick one to have for father-in-law. Choice A, Hannibal Lecter. B, the Emperor from Star Wars.
Oh, man, the Emperor. He's got secret powers,
yeah,
right? Like,
he's cool.
Like you might be able to like pick up some shit that you could, twist to the light side after you're done with it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a fight back and forth. Hannibal Lecter, bro. You think anybody would ever say yes? I mean, if we ever get a serial killer,
I think more realistic people who don't believe in magic and the fantasy of Star Wars, they might actually identify with. Or maybe they just want to be more cultured.
See, you know what?
Maybe they like culture.
That lets us know what level you're on. Right? That's exactly what it is. You're that. There is absolutely
obviously he doesn't exist,
and it looks just like that sumbitch right there.
Yeah, I'm way more comfortable with like magical evil rather than like actual eat your body and kill you.
Like Jeffrey Dahmer shit right there,
like
dude.
Brain souffle evil.
Why you got to bring up real life?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and choose fictitious evil. How about that?
That's a smart choice.
Too damn terrifying.
Bumper sticker, choose fictitious
Aubrey
evil.
Would lose like I don't know, $2 million a year in revenue on that answer. No, I love Hannibal Lecter. He's awesome. Total human optimization there. Oh my God. All right. What's your power animal?
I got a couple power animals. Bear is a big one for me. Bear, eagle, and
that's mine, eagle.
Yeah, bear and eagle probably the two strongest ones. They've come to me a bunch of times in visions. They've been like allies for a while.
Like present, they're there, like you're sitting, yep, okay, check.
Man, I had this crazy vision of the bear. The first time the bear came to me, and this bear was all laden down with gold chains, like straight up Mr. T, like had heavy-ass chains everywhere, jewelry everywhere, big-ass crown on his head, and he had so much gold on him that he couldn't move, and he was like stuck, and he was like slow, and he like wasn't able to like be an actual bear, and he looked at me in my vision, he goes, I remember when I just used to be a bear, and he lost all his gold chains, and he just started charging through the forest. And it was this like beautiful reminder of like, yeah, we can get trapped by all of this stuff that we call our wealth. But if we get rid of that shit, then we can actually be free who we are again. So I've always like kept that in mind. And since then, like the bear has been one of the animals.
Does the reputation that follows you follow you if you stand in front of everybody naked?
I know my reputation shrinks considerably, right?
Depends on the weather.
That's what I'm saying. No, it doesn't depend on the weather at all, bro. Oh God.
Yeah, all that wealth, man. That's an awesome metaphor. Man, that'd have shaken me to my core if I'd have seen that, because that's kind of a big thing in our family too. It doesn't matter what you have, and that could be taken away from you.
Yep.
The faster you run and get stripped away, the harder you get hit, man. And if it's just me and you standing there, am I going to have the same reputation that I had? No, or yes. And all that other stuff, man, it can't keep you alive and can't fight for you and all. Yeah, right.
Oh,
it's good stuff.
Fire away, bud.
Favorite superhero?
Man, that's a tough one. Thor.
Really?
Thor, probably.
Is that our first Thor?
That's the first Thor.
That's our first Thor, bro.
Yeah, Thor.
First Thor. Why?
Well, he's just fucking badass for one, and I think just holding up. You know, he always is. He's a little bit cocky. You know, and I've certainly fallen into that. You know, I've certainly have like been down. I can identify a little bit of that element, but then also seeing his transition into like a true like being of fucking justice, like setting right the wrongs in the way that he does, and just that kind of fearless cavalier attitude. Yeah, I'd say Thor, and I like going big with the magical powers too.
That hammer's pretty cool.
Well, the whole dynamic of how they. It is true, man. When he can lift Mjolnir, right, the hammer. When he gets the power to lift the hammer, that means he's good on the inside and the outside. You're not allowed to wield that unless you're here to help. Because I mean, the power that has. I thought they did a good job in Captain America when he kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
Whoa, where cowboy?
Right.
Yeah, true to the heart, true to the hammer.
It's same as the King Arthur myth, right?
Yeah.
You know, only Arthur can lift the sword. Only Thor can lift the hammer. It's about that internal alignment. You know, like, are you good to the core?
If you're gonna wield something like this, you better be. Yeah, the only way. It's cool.
Yeah, and for everybody who doesn't know, which probably most people do, you know, Thursday, that's fucking Thor's day. Wednesday was Woden's day, Odin's day. You know, Tuesday, Tears Day. Like, we got all Friday, Frida's day. Like, we got all our names after these old Norse gods. It's more integrated into our zeitgeist than we give credit.
Than we ever give credit for. Yeah. We'll come back to that after we finish the minute, but I want to touch more on the importance of that and that knowledge base towards the development of that total human optimization. Yep. Wizard, fire away.
Okay. Will artificial intelligence result in a utopian era of human advancement, or will it take all our jobs, eventually become a real-world Skynet, marching into a dystopian future and exterminating mankind?
I don't buy into the exterminating the mankind part. I just don't really have that fear. But I think what they will unlock is that there are plenty of resources available, but human beings still need to find meaning. And they're not going to be able to have their meaning in menial jobs anymore. So they're going to have to find meaning another way. So we're going to have to bring back, you know, ritual, hardship, challenge, other things that people can define their meaning. Because a lot of regular jobs are going to go away. Trucks are going to be self-driving.
Yep.
You know, that is an inevitability, and a lot of truckers are not going to have jobs. That's going to continue in a lot of different industries.
Planes will be that way.
Yeah, everything. So many things that are human-powered will no longer be human-powered. And then what are people going to do? Some will be artists and continue to be artists. Some will be thought leaders and motivational speakers. But other people, we're going to have to find ways that people can have genuine meaning. And maybe that is in a digital world where they get to live out their superhero fantasies and they just kind of shed the human existence, but I don't think that's going to really cut it because we're in these bodies and these bodies are fucking dope and the soul is in these bodies. And so I think it's going to have to be another way to like really define meaning. And maybe that's, you know, bringing back these rites of passage and bringing back these other things and other ways that we can help each other out. And that's going to be a real important move that we have to make.
You know what? When he asked this question, it drives me bonkers. First off, because it's just so negative, right? But I love. Hey, it's a legit question.
It is one of the it is on the forefront of the most important topics we could possibly be considering now.
Of course. All right, shoot, Marcus.
What was your first car?
Oh man! So my first car, my stepdad got me. It was a Ford F-150, which is cool.
Yeah.
But he got it. Like we came from California. We moved to Texas to high school, and so I was already like stereotyped as California, this California dude. And I'm trying to like, fit in, you know, be like, yeah, no, I'm Texas too, guys. Yeah, you know,
dude.
And the truck is like a lowrider. He got me like a lowrider F-150. It was lowered. Like everybody's raising their trucks. No. He just shows up in the driveway. It's lowered, and I'm going, oh, I mean, that's kind of dope. But, I don't know how this is going to fly. I got the only lowered truck at my high school. This is fucked up.
But yeah, back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
90s, that was starting
like
to come online.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
You could get away with that.
No,
it didn't last very long. No, check it out. There was a couple of years where the trucks were slammed, but then immediately it went back up.
Well, question though, what happened?
It ended up being all right. You know,
like they were like, he's from California. It's pretty cool.
It's still a Ford truck. You know, like it's still got some
with West Coast style.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, you say it all the time. You're Texas, West Coast, Texas.
West Coast,
right?
Yeah, West Coast swagger.
Is that what you say? All right,
West Coast, Texas.
Wizard, fire away, bud.
All right, a little more serious question. I think we'll get a good answer out of you on this one. Give us one person you admire above all others, or at least near the top of the list for their physical ability, and then one that you admire for their mental ability.
This is a great question, by the way.
So physical ability, the dude that blew my mind always was one of my first really good friends. You know, because I was in college and I had friends all around, but when I met somebody who was like, all right, this is my fucking brother, and that was Bodie Miller, who was an Olympic skier.
Yeah.
And that dude was just a freak of nature with how hard he would train and what he would push himself through. Like I've subsequently been around people in every sport, watched them train. To this day, nobody has partied harder nor worked out harder than that man. Like he would go to train, he would train to the point where he had zero left in the tank, like 150-pound weight vest and sprinting up hills until he was like crawling in the dirt and like dry heaving. You know, we would go out to the park and do like a little workout. It wouldn't be a little workout. He would be doing lateral jumps over a picnic table with the benches on them too. Lateral jumps.
On the sides, back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. Bong, 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 bong. And just going until like his feet were clipping the edge and he was almost tumbling over. Like his ability to push that hard was something that was, you know, really like set the bar for me of what you could take. And it didn't matter if it was that or if he was sitting in a sauna and just smiling at that 45-minute mark at, you know, 220 degrees. You know, I'm just dying, and he's just like looking at me like, oh, okay. You know, like
you having fun?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, interestingly, that same thing kind of trained his mental toughness too. And I'll just answer the same question because I really admired that, because his ability to change his attitude about a certain situation was absolutely remarkable. And I think that's what helped him go through that point in training. Like he didn't look at it as suffering at that point. He could change his mental attitude on or surrounding that at any given point. He had absolute control of it. I remember one story, I've told this before, but I mentioned something like, I got a song stuck in my head. And he's like, well, get it out. And I go, fuck, man, I just told you it's stuck, like stuck in my head.
Yeah, it's not going. It's on the loop.
Yeah,
it's in the loop.
He goes, well, you're not in control of your mind? Who's in control of your mind then? Just get it out of your head. And he just looked at me, and I was like, oh, that's possible? Like, that's possible to do that? And then he explained to me, he's like, if I have any extraneous thoughts, like a song stuck in my head or some kind of fear loop in my head, and I'm at the starting gate, and I'm about to slide 90 miles an hour down a hill with blades on my feet, like, I might die. You know, so he just honed his ability to master his mind in those conditions. And I'm sure that's something that you guys see in all the top performers.
Well, when you check the frequency, right? And one of the people that the person who really jumps out is Diana Nyad, right? The woman who swam from Cuba to Florida.
Yeah.
And she did it at 64 years old. It was 117 straight hours in the water. And in my mind, when you're swimming, one, all your other perceptions taken away because your head's just down and all you're trying to do is, it's not like you have all these other feeds going on to create static or whatever. It's literally just the static of pain that you're embracing. But she would be able to narrow her focus in her brain by these little mantras she would just say over and over, hundreds of times, say the same sentence over and over, and almost kind of reverse engineered that to fill the space with something meaningful that kept her focus. Sure. Right? So that was someone. All right.
I dig that, and that's powerful, but you know what? I think what he's talking about is even a level beyond, because she can almost get in a trance-like state and just maintain that. But if you carry that through your daily life, through all the activities you're doing, that seems to me a more advanced version of that mental control. That's
I call it mental override. He didn't name it that, but he had the strongest mental override ability to say it wouldn't even matter. Like, imagine the worst fight you've ever gotten in with a girl or a wife or something like that. Like, I could watch him get in like a gnarly emotional situation, and then one breath, gone, like smiling,
completely gone,
like just let it go. Like, his ability to mental override his emotional state, his thought patterns, it was really like next level. I mean, I still haven't met anybody that still puts himself in the shit. You know, I've met some people who are on that path to being these, you know, quotation enlightened masters, and they really live that kind of vibrant life where it doesn't feel like they're ever even shaken.
Right.
But to see somebody who could get shaken still, who's in the shit, who still has emotional turbulence, who still has competitions they're competing in, and have somebody have that control, really, really impressive, and really made a mark, you know, on me of what is possible. You know, really showing how powerful we are. You know, sometimes we'll just surrender that power and say, oh, you know, my mind's just wandering, or my mind's a beast. But really, we can control our mind. That is possible. It's hard, but it's possible.
Where have you come to a conclusion about where and how he developed this?
I think he had some innate abilities. Started early for him. I mean, he wasn't part of like a family that was taking him to the best ski schools. He found a pair of skis in New Hampshire and started hiking up mountains when he was 4 years old, just so he could ski down once and then hike back up and ski down once, and then you know, picking up psychedelic mushrooms out of cow patties in the middle, you know, when he's 11 years old, and exploring the universe on his own. I mean, he's just a unique, like one of these renegade wolves that just figured some things out.
Interesting. Well, I think that's the perfect response and a perfect place to end the Mad Minute. And thank you, brother. I mean, from, you know, blaming farts on people to the wolf in the woods of discovery. I mean, it's a dramatic shift. I don't know if we've ever gone in that spectrum before on it. So thank you so much for creating that, as I knew you would give us that incredible spectrum. But the reason why people come to the T&Q podcast, and we've talked about this, is because they're in that struggle. They're getting the pummeling. The negative insurgency is literally camped out in their brain. They're getting the beat down, and they're really struggling trying to manifest that one thing, or that idea, that what is it going to be to say, all right, I can do this. I can inch forward. I can draw the line out in front of me, drag myself to that, and then draw another line. And so without further ado, Aubrey, would you please start us off down this wonderful rabbit hole that I know is coming? Can you please start us off with your greatest never quit story or stories?
The thing about the never quit story is, for me, you know, you guys had actual external resistance that was at a level that most of us can't comprehend. And you won't meet that external resistance ever again in your lives. You know, you're done, you know, barring maybe Wizard over here, who may meet some external resistance to that caliber. But for me, it's never been that. I mean, I was an athlete, and I have athlete stories, but for me, it's been an escalation of how much pressure I can hold, and that's grown over time. So my biggest never quit story is right now, and it will always be right now. It'll be 5 minutes from now, it'll be 5 days from now, it'll be 5 months from now, because I'm gradually adapting to be able to hold more pressure, hold more responsibility, hold more stress, and adapt accordingly to that. And so for me, it's always just being on that bleeding edge curve of how much I can take. How much can I take before I retreat, before I play small, before I go back and be the victim and throw a little pity party and hide out for a while. Like, how much can I push myself forward? And that's just the constant battle.
That's a great place to start. And for our listeners, obviously we did a great intro for Aubrey and explained his background and what got him here. But really, it's very difficult to encapsulate somebody in an intro, and that's why I'm glad you're sitting here. You talked so far about this pressure and the idea of pressure and condensed pressure and the power of pressure. Can you enlighten the listeners a little bit more about what you mean? What does pressure look like on across the spectrum for people in their daily lives, maybe, or in the big context of things?
I think it's really about letting yourself down and letting other people down. That's where the big amount of pressure comes from. We have these expectations of what we want to bring to the world and what we want to do with our lives. And then we have people who are relying on us to help deliver on those ideas, whether it's family or, for me now, as I was mentioning, 181 employees at our Christmas party. I mean, I'm looking them in the eye, and I know decisions I make, a weakness that I, allow to exhibit, a moment of ego, a moment of fear, and that could all go away. Like, ultimately, I have, my decisions have ramifications to a lot of people there. And not only that, it's all the customers downstream who are affected. It's all the people who follow me and look to me for inspiration. And if I fall, then I'm letting them down, and I'm letting my friends down and my family, but ultimately also myself down too. And so it's dealing with those things that's really where that pressure comes from and where you want to retreat. And it makes you want to, shrug the responsibility and say, oh, I didn't have a choice. It's not my fault. Excuses. And that allows you to shrug the responsibility, because it's terrifying to say, no, it is my fault, all my fault, the good, the bad, everything. It's my fault either way. But that's okay, because I'm going to forgive myself no matter what I do, because all I'm responsible for is doing my very best at any given moment. And that's the way that you get out of the pressure, is you just focus on the process and know that you can only do your best right there at that time. And forget about the expectations. Forget about what the outcome is. You're only responsible for your best.
Well, I mean, it's a part of life. Pressure is like gravity.
Yeah.
Right? And
Good point.
People put it into perspective of words and responsibilities. That's just a way of describing the gravity of what you've grown into. And as we grow in life, we don't get bigger in size in our human form, right? But our existential does. It grows around us, and it's kind of, we're the core. And the tighter we get inside mentally and physically, man, the more the gravity that we consume, and the more stuff that comes around us, and it feels like a pressure to us, man. But it's just a part of us. One can't exist without the other. I can't grow and and find out what I'm truly capable of unless I pull people into it with me and make them a part of this. Truthfully, because if it was our own reality, if I create my own reality without anybody around, it'd be perfect. Right? The only reason I have to know a little bit about other people and what they do is because I have to exist in other people's realities. And this didn't come overnight. That complete peace that we all search for, I have that. What he was talking about, it's the greatest thing. And it doesn't mean that everything's okay. Not everything's always going to be okay. It means that I can handle the pressure that's around me at all times. And we just keep pushing.
Well, when I hear the two of you talk, I hear two people that have been on pathways towards discovery, right? And that's fantastic, and that's allowed you to have this perspective. But let's back up to the day when you didn't have that perspective and you didn't have that knowledge base, Aubrey. When was the space in your life where you're like, hey, you know what? I need to set forth and go on this journey. There's something out there that I want to feel. I want to feel that. I don't know if it's the control of the pressure, maybe emotionally, cognitively, but it's certainly an understanding of it. When was that moment for you? When was okay, I'm going to move from this physical existence, because you were a great basketball player and all that, to really go into this, position of discovery and everything else?
It's the same model, really. I think that's the great thing about sports, is they teach you the model. They teach you that resistance training works for the body, and then you learn the model, and then you know that resistance training works for the mind. So it's like a proxy for life. And that's why I would recommend everybody who, has a chance, compete in something or put yourself out there on the line, because that is your proxy. That is how you practice for what life is going to deal for you. So for me, it was, early on, it was basketball. It was that moment I got called up to the varsity team as a sophomore on a nationally ranked Texas team. And I knew my job was to shoot shoot 3-pointers, and stretch the defense out, because we had a big 7-footer, Chris Mim, on the inside.
Yeah.
And they needed somebody who could shoot on the outside. And I knew that if I made my first shot, then I would probably stay. And if I missed, I'd probably go back down to the junior varsity. It's like that pressure moment, has been the same pressure moment as when I got called up to do the first Joe Rogan podcast, or when I get called out on stage in front of 6,000 people at Madison Square Garden, or when I'm, in an important meeting. Or it's the same thing. It's just, you learn it through different ways, but that same universal knowledge you can apply specifically. And I've just done that with everything, just applied that idea of, all right, push myself up against the pressure, see what happens, see how I adapt, see what I can learn from, and then bring that in and try again on an even bigger scale.
It's funny because by the time I started doing the public speaking, I didn't know I was supposed to be afraid of it. I was a team guy. I'd never been afraid to go on stage ever. I didn't know that was a thing. I swear to God, we trained to fight in front of you. Why would I be scared to talk in front of you?
Yeah, of course.
It never even dawned on me. And people were like, the dentist and public speaking, like there's the two most feared things on the planet. But it's funny because I see these guys, and you can overcome a fear of riding your bike without training wheels, and you can overcome a fear of speaking in front of 70,000 people in about the same time.
Yeah.
That's the great potential. And I go back to this space, though. I always go back. There's a process involved, right? There's a process involved with all of it. And the more I think you can refine that process of the total human optimization, because it's one thing to say, okay, go walk the earth like Cain and go have your kung fu moments, and you're going to have this amazing transcendental enlightenment that hits you in the face. But that doesn't happen for most people because they got to pay their bills.
No, you got to seek it. You got to intentionally go after it. You got to intentionally put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Fear is the enemy. Fear is the resistance
with
point.
A capital F. I love how you always say fear totally. With a capital F.
So then you're always pushing against that. That is the resistance point. When we're talking about all this stuff, it's fear. Fear is the thing. Fear is the one demon at the heart of this whole.
It's awesome, right? Because it's so real, you can taste it. But why do I have that? It's
built in.
It's your human condition to tell you that that's where you need to go. That's how it always drove me. It's like a fuel for a flame that can burn blue permanently.
Because you have that mindset of you're going to find fear and you're going to go towards it. And that's the thing that people need to shift. Instead of that, instinctual response, run from fear. The other response of human growth and potential is run towards fear.
Totally.
And we can make those moments happen any point. It doesn't need to be a big basketball game. Anytime that you're afraid to do something and you push yourself to it, that's your little superhero moment.
Like let's say
there's people dancing and it's like still kind of awkward. It's not like you're not drunk. And you're like, dancing would be fun, but, I'm like a little self-conscious. You get out there and you start that dance party, like that's your superhero moment.
Exactly.
Like there's an opportunity right there where you can push against some fear that you have and do it. When there's that girl across the way and you're like, oh man, she's super pretty, I'd love to talk to her, but that fear of rejection is stopping you. That's your superhero moment. When there's a bug in the house and your option is to take a magazine and smash it and run like a scared child away from it, or just grab that thing with your hand and let it outside. Like that's your superhero moment. We can take all these opportunities to grow against the resistance of fear. We just have to decide, and we have to know the value of pointing ourselves towards that shit.
And it's cool from the guy's perspective. You see a spider, like, Jesus, look at the size of that spider. But there's a whole bunch of girls around.
Yeah.
Boys are like, I got it.
I got it.
Yeah.
Now you've flipped it around towards ego, right? And ego is a big thing that I remember at the weekend you brought that up and we talked about it, and so help people understand ego and how to get a grasp on their ego and the introspective nature of ego and how debilitating it can be in conjunction with fear, if you could.
Yeah, ego is your identity self. It's like who you think of yourself as. And it's inherently unstable because it gets its justification off a bunch of other stuff. It gets its justification off the things you have or what other people say about you. And that's what builds your identity, builds your ego up. So it's always terrified because all of these things, like those gold chains on the bear, all of these things can get taken away. So the ego is in a perpetual state of fear because it's built its house on nothing. It's built its house. It's a sandcastle at low tide. Like eventually the tide is going to come and it's going to wash all of that away. And that tide's called time. You know, eventually time is going to erode all of your treasures, all of these things that you built on. So the ego is a fear-based mechanism largely because it's built itself on something that's unstable. So I think really we're always going to have it, but just to recognize that, you know, it's not that important. Like just play with your ego.
Interesting. All right. I want to shift a little bit and come back more something directed at you personally. Help us understand the creation of Onnit and the idea of, all right, here's the goal is to create this company that at its core, its mission is to understand human optimization at its top level. And as an idea, and it's in the incubator stage. Help us understand why you wanted to do that, what's happened, what you've learned. I mean, and I know that's massive, but if you can condense it to help our listeners say, I've got an idea. What does it look like to have that come to fruition?
Well, this one was really, I've been, living Onnit, living human optimization my whole life. Like this has been something that just I inherently was interested in. How can I get a little bit better tomorrow than I am today at whatever it was, whether it was picking up juggling, after my freshman year of high school. And I just relentlessly went after that until I could get the 4-ball patterns down and the Mills mess. And I had all the different tricks and it didn't matter. That's a useless skill for the most part, but I would still.
Not in here. It's not. Trust me. That's one of the most epic skill sets that's been brought into here.
But and whether it was that or whether it was, actual sports or whether it was sexual performance, didn't even matter. Mental performance, the knowledge that I brought in, I had that attitude always. Like, how can I be a little bit better at this? And, I guess it was, my favorite play of all time is Cyrano de Bergerac. And he has a quote, I couldn't, when confronted with all the possibilities of the things I could be, I decided just to be admirable at everything. And that was it. I didn't really understand what I wanted or where it was going to go. But I was just like, well, I'm just going to keep getting better at stuff until I figure it out. And Onnit is kind of the culmination of that. It's everything I learned about enhancing my cognitive performance, both with mindset techniques and nutritional techniques and supplements, and then physical performance, and then emotional performance, and all of the different things kind of wrapped up. And then Onnit just provides the tools and some of that community, that's kind of bonded together around it, and also the mindset and motivation to make that happen.
I love that you talk about community because that's, in essence, what we're trying to do is create that community, that support structure of when people are in their vulnerable moments, and that we get these amazing listener write-in stories where people are literally writing in by the hundreds and telling us their greatest never quit stories. And we read a lot of those, and I've got one to close this show with. And we actually brought 2 of our listeners that wrote in on the show. We had this one woman on recently. Her name was Brogan, and she had this trigeminal disease in her face, so her face feels like it's being stung by 1,000 bees at all the time, all day long. It's debilitating, but she talks about the community that got her through that. She talks about the community of growth. Help us understand from your perspective how important the team is, the community is for the growth. To understand fear, to understand ego, to understand, the need to explore the self.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're built as communal creatures. We're built as tribal creatures that have just adopted this kind of very lonely existence that we currently have, which is largely just nuclear family and a couple friends. But that's not the way that we were built. We were built to live in teams, and teams that relied on each other. Because right now most of us could say, turn off all our communications, we'd be totally fine on our own. We got our bank account, we got our credit cards, we got Instacart. We might not even have to leave the house. You know, things would just happen. And that has never been the case for the human being. Like we thrive in a community structure. We thrive in that tribal structure. And part of every community and every tribe is the hardships, is the rituals. And nature used to provide that. But now we don't have that. So it's actually hard for us to even get those kind of bonds. That's why you see it in the teams. You know, it's like there is this large external force that forces this kind of bond to happen naturally. And I think where we need to go and what we need to do is like we need to put ourselves in situations that are inherently challenging. So like when we did that weekend out at Onnit, you know, part of it was not only listening to some amazing spoken word poetry, but it was writing it ourselves and then going up and expressing that. And that moment brought that, I mean, I'm sure you could feel it. It brought that whole group together because people's vulnerability was courage there. That was something inherently challenging. That was something that we could all respect. Everybody was digging deep. And when I, you know, coach my course, I have this course called Go For Your Win. And when I bring them out for the mastermind weekend, I'll put them in uncomfortable situations. Using dance as that same metaphor, we'll do like this thing called ecstatic dance, which is like an ancient kind of tribal dance ritual where basically you just get out of your head, broad daylight, sober, and you allow music to move your body. And for men, it's like, fuck, that's really challenging. Like, this is like the hardest thing I've ever done. But the fact that everybody goes through it together and it's something hard, even though it's so silly, it's dancing, it's what every child does. But even though that doesn't have like a really manly, you know, kind of expression in a lot of people's minds, like the fact that they went through that challenge together, then all of a sudden that community really starts to form. Like, man, that was really hard for me. Me too, man. I haven't fucking moved like that and forever. And that'll form the nexus of a community, this shared hardships, this shared mindset. And I think that's what we all really need. And we need to go again, and we got to go seek that. We got to put ourselves in situations with other groups of people where we can go through something challenging, whether it's a hard workout, whether it's yoga, whether it's a, you know, some kind of plant medicine ceremony, or whether it's some external thing where we climb a mountain together or put ourselves out in the cold. It doesn't matter, but sharing those kind of hardships and feeling like, all right, these are my brothers and sisters and I need to rely on them for support. I mean, I think that's what really gives fulfillment for a human being.
It seems the less you have to deal with the elements, we progressed as a society, and we got to where, hey man, you don't have a bear rolling in and killing you on a regular basis, or anything dragging you out of here, or anything. And the more civilized we became, it seems that always find something to pressure ourselves with. That's like kind of like bullying comes into play, or all the name calling. I mean, that didn't even exist. You wouldn't even worry about half that crap if you knew you had to worry about what was outside the door.
Well, I think that lends itself to the necessity for ritual, right? For these communal-based experiences that we share, right?
Unless you are interactive with each other, like you can't just go LOL. You got to laugh, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't think my joke was funny? What the hell does LOL mean?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. It's I don't know. It seems like the more technologically advanced we get, and the less we are with each other, man. Those skills aren't. If you don't hone those in, that's dangerous, right?
Yeah. Well, we got to get in situations where we have to drop the mask. You know, like you guys get to know each other on the teams at a really intimate level because there's no fucking time nor energy to put on a facade of any sort. You know, it's like you got to just show up as you, and we got to put ourselves in those situations. Whereas social media and the lens of the glass, it's actually literally glass that you're seeing each other through. That lens, you can distort that in any way you want. You can create whatever fiction you want behind that. You know, if you get a heartbreaking message on the SMS, you can fucking smiley face that shit out of there and then go cry in the corner. Nobody will know.
Right.
But if you're in person, then you have to, you know, we can sense that. We have
That's
mirror
why they
neurons.
Get hit harder, right?
Yeah.
These kids, I mean, the older you get without having to experience that, imagine experiencing that the first time as an adult. It's a real thing. The human connection, man. To ignore it will will die out,
and it's going to get easier and easier to do that. You know, and
to ignore it or to ignite it.
To ignore it,
right.
and that will ultimately create the need to go seek it, right? Because we'll get worse and worse and sicker and more empty and more lonely until finally we say, "Fuck this!" Like we have to go back out the other direction. The pendulum will swing. But, you know, some people will get lost in that shuffle. Some people will never make that bounce back. And I think we're seeing some of the ramifications of that. It'll be easier to get dropped into this virtual world where you're communicating as a screen name, as a tag, as a social profile, and get
even a false identity in a virtual world.
Yeah.
Right? And like that new Spielberg movie that's coming out, right?
I mean, eventually you'll be able to wake up in the morning from a dream and plug in back into one all day and run that. Excuse me, why would you even have to leave the damn house? If I can get up and climb Everest and it gets ingrained, I mean, it's a virtual impulse, right? Cognitive, we're studying this stuff.
I mean, it's close already. I mean, I watched my little brother. I mean, video games when I was growing up, they were, I mean, cool. I played them, but they were so lame compared to what they have now. And even watching my little brother, who's 10 years younger than me, watching him play World of Warcraft and seeing his social validation for his character and the amount of time he put into that, like, it's a sticky situation because he had all of this social validation surrounding his digital version of himself, which is big orc with a big battle axe, and I totally get it because I would have done the same thing. But that's where he's larger than life. That's where he's made his mark. And then in real life, what are you doing? Well, not as much because you're getting more actionable social validation.
Oh, we had to do it. We had to go out and really do. There wasn't the video games, so we had to go out and actually learn how to use the axe and become the battle lord of ourselves.
Right,
and that's why we can live in our own realities.
Right, and that forges the actual spirit rather than this digital forging of an edifice that you're creating. And that's, I think, that's where
kids kill themselves, right? When those avatars die, they kill themselves.
I've never read that. It's emotion. They have emotional trauma for sure. So my question now is, in the rituals that exist in the world, and these focused ceremonies, these focused pathways, these focused relationships that are forcing together, how does the listener who's right now, who is in their own mind, who is spending 12 hours a day playing Call of Duty, or who is connected to creating their Facebook's platform and that's all they're posting, their Christmas looks and all this, just they're consumed by it. What do you say to them? Where do they start looking to find one of these rituals, whether it's an ancient ritual, whether it's a modern ritual? Where can they start looking?
Yeah, you look at resistance points that you can easily access for free. One of them is the cold, so, and that's something that Wim Hof has pioneered, is utilizing the cold as a teacher to train the body, to shift states, and then combining the cold with breath, both things which are generally free. You may have to buy some ice, I guess, if you're going to do an ice bath, but generally free, exposure to temperature. It can be extreme heat or extreme cold. And then the utilization of breath, hyperoxygenation along with the cold, will create a dramatic state shift. And then you go into that with other people and ritualize it, and then it becomes a sweat lodge, an inipi, a temazcal, or any of these other ceremonial kind of polar plunge and swims where you go in there and you face that resistance together, and then you not only have the ritual itself, but you have the community built around the ritual. And that's just one example. Doing yoga, which is like doing martial arts against yourself. Like yourself is the opponent, your mind is the opponent, and you're stretching and breathing through that. Like finding these other things that are like available is definitely the way to start.
It's funny that you brought up the sweat lodge, and you and I have been talking about forgiveness, right? And that's my big thing lately, is really trying to understand and redefine it based on my experience I went through the divorce I went through this past year. And so I knew I had hit an impasse, so I went and did this warrior sweat lodge. And I remember, when we got in there, and then the second round going, it was so hot, like I cracked, and I was like, hey, uncle, I got to get out. And I come out, man, and I'm in there with two other Marines, hard dudes. One dude's been at the front of the battle for the last 17 years. He'd literally just gotten back 2 days before from the Middle East. He's in there battling his own stuff. We all come out. We're all sitting in the dirt, broken. But we all almost simultaneously focused on this one little tree that was up above us, and the clouds going by, and just the quiet of the wind in that tree and the peacefulness of that simplicity. All of us hit the same. We all described the same thing, the same mind, and freeing ourselves of being in that broken space. Now, when I tell people this story, they look at me like I got, a third eye coming out of my head, and like I'm talking about some, Navajo Mambo Jam. We're in the spirit world, right? That whole concept of fear of that ritual. What do you say to people, Aubrey, to say, hey, go try it and see what's out there from what is the spark?
It is a funny thing, people will discredit something they haven't tried. It's like if someone tells me this is the best damn cookie I've ever eaten, I go, nah, bro. And I've never tried that cookie. Like, who am I to judge that? How am I supposed to tell somebody if that cookie's good or not if I won't even try it? It's not going to kill you, but people will discredit these things that they haven't experienced because I can identify, listen to your story, and I know that moment because I've come out of the sweat lodge and had that moment. Different tree, different sky, different dirt, same exact feeling. And because I've been there, it's experiential. It's something that you can only know and not ever describe. So you got to just go try it. You got to go try the Wim Hof breathing, 40 deep inhales and then submerge yourself in the cold. Like, try that and see how you feel on the other side before you discredit it. Before you allow your fear to put up reasons why you shouldn't even start, why you shouldn't even try it, which is really just your fear, trying to justify why you're not afraid of it. You know what I mean? It's trying to play that little trick on you. So you got to just go do it. And then if you don't like it, you give it a couple goes and you're like, yeah, not for me. Sweat lodge got hot, not a big deal. Cool. I will respect the hell out of that. But if you're going to discredit going through a sweat lodge ceremony and you've never done it, like, what are we even talking about here?
Yeah. It's kind of people walking into a cheeseburger place, right? And there's this guy sitting there and he's just chomping down on the bed. I mean, I'll just go into it, right? It's all over his face. He just can't get it in hard enough. You're like, whatever that is, I want one of those. And then you got the one who goes, oh my God, look how disgusting he looks eating that. And they don't eat the burger because of how the dude looked chomping it down. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it makes total sense to some other people.
Yeah.
Like, I can't eat, look how disgusting.
I'm in that battle right now with my 5-year-old, right? The bruiser. And she will look at something and because of texture or thought or feeling or whatever, no. And I feel the same way sometimes when I'm doing private coaching or I'm working with an organization or a company or I run into somebody or whatever. And they're like, no. Both you guys have a profound amount of influence on human beings out there. People are coming and looking to you whether you like it or not, right? For information about these things that we're talking about. And whether they hear your podcast and they say, you know what, I'm going to go try ayahuasca down in South America. Or Marcus, they read your book, man, and they say, you know what, I remember when you guys were doing a Patriot tour and I had that friend of mine contact me and there was that woman who was in stage 4 pancreatic cancer and she just wanted a shout out from you at the last show. Remember, and each one, you guys all got up, you did the broadcast tour, and that made her... Literally, my friend said that made her life go an extra month and a half because she was able to close that gap of, and he talks about he drew the line in the sand. He drug his broken body, that line. He made another line. So there's a place that people are looking to you both and saying, all right, help me. What are you going to say to me that's going to help me draw my line, that's going to help me find my ritual? What are you saying to those people right now that are struggling to get off the couch?
Well, I mean, I guess for me, people have to want it. They have to want to do that. You can't drag somebody else across that line. Like Marcus can't grab them by the shoulders and push them across the line because it won't be the same thing as them drawing their own line and crawling their own way. So really our job is just to show them that it is possible, that a human being can draw that line and can push themselves way farther and way harder. But people have to be willing to make that step on their own. They have to want it. That's just part of the process. So even if you have someone in your family, like, I just got to get him to do this, I got to get her to do this, and you think that you're responsible for getting them to do it, you can't. You can't force anybody to change. Like, part of the process of them changing is for them to volitionarily do it. You can show them the way, you can support them through the process, you can help open up their mind, help them forgive themselves so they don't want to punish themselves anymore, which is a huge one. There's a lot of things you can do, but ultimately they got to make that move on their own. And we all have to make that move on our own. Sometimes we have to find our rock bottom and say for ourselves, not some intervention from another person, find out for ourselves like, man, this is fucking rock bottom. I'm going to be different from this day forward. You know, and that's generally how it works. We are on our own 2 feet, and, you know, we can have all the help and community, but we can't, you know, drag somebody through that process. The simple attitude shift from saying that everything in the world is happening to you or everything in the world is happening for you.
I like that.
That is the thing. Is if you have that attitude that everything's happening for you, even the boring job, even the pain, even it's happening for me so that I can respond to that thing and become better because of that thing. So no matter what happens, no matter what crazy shit comes up out of the blue, blindsides you, that happened for you, you know, so that you can adapt, that you can be stronger, that you can grow as a better person because of that thing. And you make that subtle shift, and then all of a sudden you don't lament the things. You don't look back and say, I wish this wouldn't have happened. That happened for me.
Right. Could you imagine if in a perfect world, if when bad stuff happened to you, and then afterwards you're like, oh, did you see what I just took? Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like a rite of passage.
Right.
And you have those check marks like, I've been hit by a truck, I've been raped, I've been stabbed, blah, 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 going all the way down. And once when they walk in, it's like, that's a resume, man. Don't be embarrassed of that. I was like,
the resume of pain.
This is what you can take,
I love
right?
it.
And I mean, that's all of my tattoos are my defeats. Me and my brother, we're tattooed up in all of our defeats, man. Our scars bear our my friends' defeats.
Yeah,
kind of deal. So
I love it.
You know, that's the way it should be, really. But
and that's
maybe
why
you'll make it that you know you're doing wonderful things. You can get that done. Go ahead and get that done.
Working on it, man. Working on it.
Well, listen, Aubrey, man, thank you so much. Can you, because I know right now our listeners are going, all right, wow, he's got some amazing insight. Where can they go to find more of this insight from you, where they can hear more of these ideas and really just help start their exploration through you and through Onnit? Where can they find that?
Yeah, Onnit has, you know, all of the physical tools available, from, you know, the kettlebells, the clubs, the steel maces, all of the different unconventional training methodologies. And
by the way, the monkeys are my favorite, bro.
Yeah, the primal bells.
They are my metaphor of hate every day, man. I love them. Thank you.
Angry Cobra chimp. We got some Star Wars stuff coming. You swing a Darth Vader kettlebell if you want. But so Onnit has the tools, and then the supplements and the different foods, and, you know, the information for that. And then on the personal side, if you're interested on this kind of the mindset and living more of your purpose, training these skills that I've been talking about, from the meditation to the breathing to all that, you can check out the course that I'm launching, Go For Your Win. It'll be the relaunch of that, goforyourwin.com. Follow me on social, Aubrey Marcus. And I got my first book coming out called Own the Day, Own Your Life. Definitely check that out. You can pre-order that on Amazon. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that goes like deep into using hormetic stress, which is the principle of using resistance to grow strong, whether that's the cold or whether that's training or whether that's weird foods or whether that's, you know, everything that you can do in life to build a stronger body, build a stronger mind, and how to apply that all into a single day.
Man, that is spectacular, and I cannot wait to stay on that journey and watch that journey with you, brother. Again, thank you so much for coming out here to the ranch to sit with us. You're the second guest we've had to do done that. It's been wonderful to have you here, bro. Real blessing.
Been a pleasure. Thanks for having me out. It's awesome.
Awesome, brother. Dude, you know what I love about that cat, Marcus? He don't just run a company. He ain't just making a pile of money. That dude's thinking about shit.
There's actually some thought going on inside all that.
Right?
I've distilled the essence of that entire interview, and what I've come up with is the man is thinking about shit.
Dude, right?
Good to
Wait a minute, you're making fun of what I just said a minute.
No.
Dude, he knows a lot of shit
I've been
about
made
a lot
fun
of
of
shit.
before, and I
think I know what's going on.
I'm getting made fun of.
Pretty sure.
You know what
you're
you
making
are,
fun of me.
Wizard? You know what you are?
What?
You're my resistance, bud. And I'm not going to let my resistance stop me from my human growth potential.
The problem is your resistance has the power to stop this show whenever it wants.
That's right. Wait, no, what?
Yours does.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. Wait,
No, it's your.
Wait, I'm so confused
it's your
right
head
now,
in the
Mark.
box
But when
Been a strange day
honestly,
with the
Marcus,
guarantee on it.
when you think about performance, right? and you listen to the way
didn't get that one, did you?
I'm not listening anymore to you two knuckleheads because this is a series.
It was a movie. Yeah.
What was it?
Tommy Boy.
Oh, say it again, please.
The guaranteed piece of. He's like, no wait, it's your bull and his head up his. Remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now there's performance, right? That dude was true performance and comedic level. But when you come back and you take a step back and you look at you listen to what Aubrey's talking about, and you listen to the concepts of fear, resistance, finding those other proxies in life, right? These are critical things that people have to understand as they try and develop the never quit mindset. It's not something just because of a traumatic situation that's going to warrant your ability to all of a sudden have these high levels of performance. You have to train into it, don't you?
Sure. And each one of those never quit moments show up in certain cycles. I mean, and even if you do run into the same situation further down the road, it's going to be different because of the experience levels and kind of identify
for sure
the moment that you're in, even in life, right?
Well, that's what he was saying in his whole thing. His never quit moment is in the moment he's existing in.
Right. It's cool to see somebody that can articulate each pattern throughout their life, because normally you weigh a lot on either on a bad or on a good, and someone who can weigh both those throughout their entire life and articulate that is why people ultimately will follow you, because you can give them a heads up on everything, the good and the bad.
Oh, and that's why Aubrey's podcast is blowing up. His book is coming out. His company is just, exploding. His following on Instagram and all of his social media.
I think that's the great thing about social media too, is you can do, not only you learn about the person, but check their background out. And it's not just a piece of paper on the wall. Now there's actually examples.
What they say, what they mean, right, what they're thinking.
If they've applied it and how they applied it. And now there's witnesses.
You're going to put it out there. You better back it up. And I think that's what Aubrey's doing, right, Wizard?
Yeah, you're talking about applying this in your life. And what that makes me think of is another big part of this, where the recognition of the value of implementing those never quit situations, that struggle, that hardship, the pressure, resistance, all of that. In recognition of that, actually purposefully creating it, going out and seeking to create, because a lot of people don't have these strong resistance points naturally in their life. They're not, going through a never quit story every single day. And he's talking about, using things like cold exposure, putting yourself into situations purposefully to expand and explore more about yourself.
If you just keep getting up and you know that you've kind of got a good idea and grasp of your own individual identity and how it works and how you can push through life, then you purposely go out and keep putting yourself in the never quit situations, because people will follow you into them. And then when you get out on the other side, I learned a little bit more, and then I look around, and if everybody else is smiling, happy, and successful, then it was a good fight.
There's an interesting
the culture there.
Yeah. Well, I what I'm hearing him saying is exactly right. He's building a resistance culture of people that are living in the same mindset, that are on the same pathways, that are pulling this collective, this what we're building and what you've built, this never quit collective, that we all express and understand the value of that resistance, the value of fear, the value of pain, the value of perseverance and grit. And now we're coming together.
I was in Vegas yesterday. Rooney and I went up there at a speech. We walked around. We're going to do some gambling, which I'd not really good at, but I know that I can. if you walk up to a craps table that's surrounded with people, right, there's probably a good shooter in there. And even with craps, you walk up in there, and Rooney didn't know anything either. I was like, well, just watch the guy rolling, right? And if he's surrounded by a bunch of people and everybody's having a good time, that means he's probably pretty savvy on what he's doing. But with craps, man, the energy in it promotes that game and attracts people to it.
Flow.
And knowing at any point in time it could be over. And even when the guy, just so you can tell you get a good shooter, when he would crap out, it never affected him visually. He's like, I lost that hand, but he immediately went back down, started betting again, and started rolling again, and was winning. And it's those that overall achievement of what he walked away with was a lot of money, but in between that, there was a lot of little battles that he lost.
The battles that we fight internally in our own mind.
Right, and even I didn't know anything about craps. I know he did. And he was sure of himself and what he was doing, which made me confident. So I was betting behind him.
Really? Interesting.
And that's kind of how when you walk in, it's kind of like life, man. I fell in behind a guy, knew the situation in the game and the war and the battle, right? And I also knew we were going to lose some of them battles, and we might have lost the overall war, but that's war, right? You don't know really the outcome. You just know that if you get a bunch of people around that know what they're doing,
you can walk into that resistance with a smile on your face and positivity in your heart, like what Aubrey's creating at Onnit. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Listen, if you're listening to this, man, you got served, holy cow, a heavy dose of just wisdom on this one, man. I mean, get this group in the same room and to be able to deliver all these different ideas, this collective understanding of performance, of human growth, and what it can do for you, man, God bless you if you're coming to this show. If this is your first time listening, man, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate you coming and choosing this show. If you're coming back for more, damn, you just got a dose, right? I mean, Aubrey is something fierce, man. I love his philosophical mind, and I love what he's doing with Onnit, man. And also, we want to let you know, we couldn't be doing what we're doing without you. We could not be delivering the content to help your human growth, to help your performance, to help you learn to never quit if you didn't keep coming back. And also telling your family, your friends, the people out there whose Marcus is telling you about, who are walking into your tribe, who are walking into your culture, who are walking around you, who need help. By showing them this show, by tell them where to go on their iPhone and to go to the iTunes podcasting app, type in Team Never Quit podcast and subscribe so you can have this information, this valuable, incredible information at your fingertip anytime you want. I mean, we have some readers that have written in and their reader stories, that they're never quit stories, that are saying to us, man, if I hadn't found your show, I'd be dead. And that's a powerful, powerful thing for us to hear. It means the resistance that we're facing in society and life and what we know, man, it doesn't matter. We're going to push through all that. We're going to deliver. We're going to cut away all those external things that are inhibiting you from achieving your never quit story, and we're going to deliver you. And our listeners, Wizard, are actually jumping in there too, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how people will devote the amount of time they do to write in their stories. I mean, this day and age where people's attention spans are quite short, that really shows some commitment. It shows some, they're really being inspired. And I think that's all autocolytic. It just builds on itself. So,
amen.
Fantastic.
So, thank you so much. I'm just going to get into my thanks, man, because it's been a hell of a show. I just want to thank God and Christ for helping me in my resistance in life, man, because surely you know I need it. I want to thank my children, the Bear and the Bruiser. I want to thank my mother and father, my brother and James. I want to thank all the people, my family, my friends. I want to thank all the people that have helped me with my human performance in this life. I want to thank Aubrey, man. It's been such a blessing getting to know you, brother. Just what you're putting out is all positive. I love that about you. I really dig it. Keep doing it, brother. I want to thank all our listeners. And you know what? Thank you both, man. Thank you for getting on this fight with me and helping me deliver this positive message to so many millions of people out there. I just thank you tons, gents.
Absolutely.
And it's true. Man, you only have a short attention span because you're looking for something else, right? And so whatever's standing in front of you is not really passionate and grabbing your attention too much. I used to have that too, and now that we can connect you to somebody who's been through it and help you push through that, man, and that's the people who keep bringing us back, the listeners, and it really is one big family out there. Just because your house is down the road, you think that they don't exist, but that's not the way it is. So even when you go in behind those walls, you got to come out sometime. You come out to the people who, man, that makes your life. First thing you see when you walk outside has something to do with what generates your life. It's not what you want, and you need to start looking in different directions. This gives you the place to do that. And the people who bring us back, that's the power they have. So thank y'all for that. I'm out.